Charlie, congratulations on Infinite Athletes' new partnership with Chelsea. You'll be the front of shirt sponsor for the men and the women's team, and you'll also be on the shirt sleeve of the training kit as well. Tell us about how this partnership came about.
So about a year ago, I've had a long time relationship with Todd Boehly. And about a year ago, when the purchase of Chelsea went through, Todd had reached out and said, based on what we'd been doing, my Infinite Athlete had been doing with the NFL and some of our other partners, was there something we could do that would be interesting for Chelsea? Because Todd is a big believer, and as is Badad and the team at Clear Lake, they're very big believers in how do you take the core asset, Chelsea, and build it in a way that is going to make the overall experience for the fans, the players, and the game itself better. And if you look at what Todd's done with the Dodgers, you can see he's been enormously successful at that approach. So he came to me and said, what could we do? And so our teams worked together for a while. And at the end of last year, we put together the framework of a deal to start building a new experience for fans inside of the Chelsea app that would launch at the summer tour. And we worked together very quietly throughout the spring on this product. And then the product launched at the Wrexham Chelsea match. And it crashed, I don't know how many servers in the first 15 minutes of the match with people getting on the platform. And we were so excited about not just the level of engagement. And to give you a sense of the engagement, we're talking about people spending 3 or 4 times the amount of time engaging in interactive experiences than anything that had been done before around professional football. And more importantly, you saw this demographic split that was much closer to what you'd see in a non-sport environment, like, close to 50-50 male, female, very young, very engaged. And what we built was something that would allow Chelsea to build on top of it, whatever they wanted. So they could build increasingly bespoke experiences for their fan group. And we were getting a lot of feedback from fans about like features that they wanted to see or specifics that they want to see that were very easy to do. And so I was having a conversation with Todd and Badad in North Carolina at the match. And I said to them, like, what's interesting to us about this is the technology that we have built is sport agnostic. It began in American football and it's grown to half a dozen other sports. And we had just completed the acquisition of this company, BioCore, which is the largest player health and safety and performance company in the world. And we were in the process of rebranding as Infinite Athlete because we bought a number of companies over the last 2 years. And Badad was talking about the story they were trying to tell with Chelsea over the next 12 months. And I jokingly was like, we should do a deal where, like, I want to introduce Infinite Athlete to the world. Where would it be a better place to do it than on one of the, 5 biggest brands in the world? And he kind of like wasn't laughing. And I was like, yeah, that would be cool. And he's like, yeah, it'd be very cool. And we literally had lunch like 2 days later in Philadelphia and sort of hammered out what that would look like between Todd and Badad and I. And we went to the PL, who were also, building some stuff for them to look at. And we're like, would this be crazy? Would this be something that would be worth doing? And we started talking about what that would look like. And it took a while for us to sort of figure out the framework of the deal that would make sense. But really the goal was for the world to be introduced to this new brand that we had just, wrapped up all these companies under and that we were really excited about. And then in a beautiful piece of serendipity, we launched on the women's FOS on Sunday and they won, and then the men on Monday and they won. And here we are the next day, and we're all feeling very, very good and lucky about the partnership so far.
Yeah, the time of recording, Infinite Athlete are unbeaten as a Chelsea partner. So it feels like the front of shirt aspect came about out of opportunism, out of benefit to your brand. And I suppose also because Chelsea were exploring various other partners first that for various reasons fell through. Paramount Plus wasn't approved by the Premier League. They didn't necessarily want a betting partner. So in some ways, do you feel like you were just there, right place, right time, and that enabled you to upscale an existing partnership?
I have always believed that success in business is as much about timing as anything else. That if you are prepared and an opportunity presents itself, that's how great things happen. And so this was an extraordinary confluence of events that all came together at the right moment to be able to do this. And like if the situation was in any way different, Chelsea would not be in a situation where they'd be interested in only doing a 1-year sort of FOS partnership. Obviously, we've expanded it to multiple years with the rest of the partnership, but that would never normally be something that we'd be able to do. And in terms of what we were trying to do, Chelsea being able to have a partnership with a company that was going to be able to provide organic technology to them. Like when you think about the partners that have been on the front of shirt across all of the Premier League over the many years that they've been doing it, this feels like, if it's not the first time, it's one of the first times that it is a truly organic partnership. I mean, we're providing for the first time ever full data spectrum for not just the men's team, but the women's team. And this is a huge issue for football globally, which is women's football is disproportionately unserved around technology. And so on day one, we're able to provide automated highlighting so that they can do all the clipping that they want to do. We're providing performance analytics and injury analytics and data analytics around the game for the team for performance. And it does help that the Lionesses are the best women's club in the world. But that we're able to provide all of that technology. And so it's really not like we're trying to sell a car or some sort of financial tool or something like that. We're selling something that not only benefits Chelsea, but also ultimately benefits global football, ideally, because as this is the first part of us signing a handful of other team deals, league deals, et cetera, where we're giving access to this core technology.
The reported deal is worth just over £40 million. You may or may not be able to confirm that, but there seems to be relative consensus in the media that that's the approximate number. And the front of shirt aspect is only for one season. What do you think might happen after this season ends? Are you open to staying as front of shirt sponsor? Is there a possibility that you might migrate from the sleeve sponsor on the training top to the sleeve sponsor on the playing shirt?
Yeah, I think all options are on the table. I mean, from my perspective, this is an incredible opportunity, and I say this without any I say this genuinely. It's an honor to be able to do this. I mean, I grew up around professional sports my whole life, and the Premier League is this otherworldly sport. In global sports, the Premier League is sort of the crown jewel. And of the crown jewel, Chelsea is this just outsized brand. And so for us to be able to be involved with that is an extraordinary thing. One of the things that I've really enjoyed over the last 6 weeks is we've had a honeymoon period with the fans around the branding and what that would be like. I am excited to sort of dive in deeper with the supporters of Chelsea, who seem to be unequivocally the most involved in the success of their brand and how they do that. But to your question, everything's on the table. I mean, we're having conversations constantly. The bigger opportunity for us, though, with both Chelsea and global football in general, is how do we use this to catapult our technology into the hands of as many fans, players, and organizations as possible? Because from our perspective, the real play here is that by powering our core technology, which allows anyone to build on top of it. I mean, that's sort of the thing I think that there's a little bit of a misconception is what our technology literally does is it synchronizes all the data and then allows people to build on top of it. So a lot of the technology you're going to see roll out at Chelsea today and then over the course of the season, a lot of it is actually built on top of our technology by other companies, which has allowed the team to have groundbreaking software and hardware and tracking and all these other things that they would not otherwise be able to have. And that's something that we're excited about bringing to the rest of the football world.
So in practical terms, what kind of examples could you give that might benefit a football fan? Is it, for example, AI technology through an app that might make buying a ticket easier, or getting a beer in the stadium quicker, or eventually even to the seat? What sort of direct front facing rather than
Yeah.
back end benefits might fans be able to experience?
Well, first of all, I know for sure that we won't be getting any beer to anyone in seats in the Premier League anytime soon. One of the things that is really interesting about, and I'll use Chelsea as the perfect example. When we launched MVX, which was the product we launched during the summer tour, which is available inside the Chelsea app right now, which is an AI platform on top of the broadcast. So it breaks down every single event in the game by the event. You can click on the event and see the highlight of just that video. You can see every piece of data that's being generated, the fastest player, et cetera. But one of the things that we found really interesting about that experience was you had obviously massive usage in the UK, massive usage in the US, but then you had these outliers like Nigeria, where you were seeing hundreds of thousands of people in Nigeria using the app, both live during the match, but then post-match, to be able to follow their favorite player or learn about the details of the match. And so we're going to be rolling out additional feature sets around MVX. You'll see it. In fact, Arsenal, during their away stand, which is these 3 weeks, including Fulham 2 days ago, you can see every Chelsea match inside of MVX after the match with the full AI complement on top of it. But starting with this month, we'll start rolling additional feature sets in, which give fans the ability to create their own highlight packages and experience various tool sets around the fans. On the other side, what ultimately will be the most interesting part about this is how fans will be able to build things that they want very easily on top of the platform. So instead of dictating to fans what we think they want, we give them the ability to actually build what they want, which is really the thing that makes us so much different than everyone else in the space.
Two final questions. First of all, the delay on the deal getting done was seemingly because the Premier League were discussing fair market value. And my understanding is the final price hasn't changed significantly. Were you aware of why it took so long to be approved? And do you also think, away from those internal discussions, there was some public confusion about who Infinite Athlete were? Because one or two were saying, how can they find 40 million plus? Aren't they a brand new company? So what can you tell us about discussions with the Premier League and the length of them, and the perception of Infinite Athlete in the build up to this being announced?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that this process has been very illuminating for me, because to experience a league taking such care in who is their premier partners, I mean, is honestly, it's kind of heartening, because a lot of times there's a certain degree of cynicism around sport where you just see, like, if you write a big enough check, people will just get out of the way and do stuff. And I, having gone through this process with the Premier League and the independent board of going through the approvals, I came away from the experience feeling much better about the fact that when we did get approved, we got approved because we had gone through all of the proper processes and that they had really dug in. So on that level, I was actually really grateful for the process. The other side of it is, look, we're an interesting company. I mean, we are definitely the only company that has come to them. We are a venture-backed company. We are not public. So I liked that people were guessing at what our financials were. I found that intriguing, given that outside of my board and my investors, nobody knows what our financials are. We've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. We've made hundreds of millions of dollars. And yet there were websites that were projecting out our profit and loss, which was hilarious. So on that side, it's laughable. I think the biggest laughable part is obviously the first thing you have to do when you show up for this type of thing is you have to show them the money, not to get too down the Jerry Maguire coaching. So that side of it was interesting. The other side was a lot of my investors own Premier League teams. And so one of the things that I think the Premier League has done an exceptional job of over the last couple of months is really looking at related transactions. And so the fact that we have a very organic relationship with a lot of partners inside the Premier League was something that I think needed to be looked at. Ultimately, it's probably the thing that made it easy for them to also feel comfortable with the deal, because it was not like, anyone. First of all, none of the owners have a majority stake in our company. They're all minority investors relative to the scale we invested in. But second of all, you're talking about a company that is invested in by multiple different teams, or rather the owners of teams. So at no point in time could it, I jokingly said to someone the other day, it would be as if Jerry Jones, who owns the Dallas Cowboys, had been one of the investors, and he was trying to help Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots. Like, I don't know a lot about European football or English football in this case, but I'm positive that the various ownership groups are not trying to help the other teams in any way. So I think that process was exciting. The other side of it was, look, I said to Todd and Badad a couple of days ago that I believe everything happens for a reason, and everything happens in the time that it's supposed to. My mom likes to say to me that everything works out in the end. If it hasn't worked out, it's not the end. That in this situation, what ultimately I think happened was we ended up getting approved into the middle of the season, or into the beginning of the season. And ultimately, we have a lot of spotlight on us now. An announcement that might not have been as big a deal 6 weeks ago now is the talk of the town. And so I feel like we're getting more bang for our buck by having it happen a little bit later and more people talking about it, because it is the center of attention relative to it. So I am definitely a glass half full person. So I'm coming away from this thing saying, like, everything works out in the end.
And just last up, you've mentioned Todd and Badad a few times, and no doubt you've dealt with Jose Feliciano as well, another of the Clear Lake co-founders. What are they like to do business with, and how ambitious for Chelsea do you think they are?
Oh, I mean, so first of all, Jose and Badad are, it is difficult to explain how ridiculously successful they are in their chosen business and how they've built this business. The scale of Clear Lake, even I didn't fully understand how exceptional that business was. I've known Todd for a long time, so I know how incredibly successful Todd is. Todd, a lot of people don't, I think, understand. Todd is a very rare investor in that he does not have a lot of partners. Like, he built this from the ground up himself and turned it into what he's done. And now he is an owner in, I would argue, 3 of the 7 most important sports franchises in the entire world. Like the Dodgers, the Lakers, and now Chelsea is exceptional. Additionally, I have never seen any of those 3 men go into anything that they don't take very seriously. Someone said to me years ago that in American football, it takes 100% of your energy to get to go across the entire field and get to the 5-yard line. And then it takes another 100% of your energy to go from the 5-yard line to the end zone. And one of the things that you see in how they've approached the building of Chelsea is that level of dedication. The thing I think that's going to come out over the next couple of months when you look at Chelsea is these guys have a very long-term vision on how they build things. And that when you look at what they're doing around the investment around the stadium, the investment around the hotel, and most importantly, the investment around the team, they went from the oldest team in the Premier League 18 months ago to the youngest team in the Premier League in 12 months. They are, if you look at their wins above average likelihood, meaning the shots on goal, the pressures, how much they've done, they are number 1 in Premier League over the first 4 weeks of the season. So their record does not reflect what has been happening on the pitch. And I think that speaks volumes about how Jose and Badad and Todd have approached building this team, is that they're patient and they understand that when you have a Pochettino, when you have a team that's built this way, that they will ultimately play to their respected level. And look, luck has a little bit to do with it. And they've had, at least in 2 of the matches that they didn't win so far this year, if the wind blows just slightly to the left, you know, they're sitting at 4-1. And so I would tell you that I am betting as much on Todd Bazad and Jose as I am on the players that are on the pitch, because I think that they're interlocked in that space. And then the other thing is this: these guys are, from a batting average perspective, to use a baseball analogy, in case I haven't mixed enough sports metaphors across this entire conversation, they don't miss. Like they're playing on a timeline and with a quantum of money that allows them to build it. And I think I'm sorry to keep going on, but I'll just say one more thing about this. I think the funniest misconception about Chelsea over the last 6 months in the press is that these guys are spending money like willy-nilly. And when you actually look at how they structured the deals, I mean, let's look at the fact they have the largest academy of any team. When you look at how they've structured the deals from an asset perspective of the value of the players, et cetera, they are running this at a level of proficiency that is unbelievable. I've spent my entire life around professional sports, and I've seen quote unquote new owners. Todd is certainly not a new owner, but I've seen new owners come in and they have a learning curve. Like, oh, we've got to figure out how to own a professional club because it's really difficult to do it. This is the first group that I've ever spent time around. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. I have been around this since I was 5 years old. Like, this is my entire education was around ownership group and league leadership groups. This is the first group I've ever been around that fundamentally understood their asset better than anyone else. And I have never had a conversation with them that didn't start and end with a lot of focus on the supporters of Chelsea. The relationship, the marriage of the Chelsea supporters and the ownership is unlike any I've ever seen in sports. I mean, first of all, just the sheer amount of power that the supporters have in terms of what they actually control. And I don't mean that like people are always like, oh, we're here because of the fans. Sure. In the case of Chelsea, like that is an actual partnership between those two groups, and they are interlocked. And the understanding of that, just in the advisory committee that they put together, you get a very clear picture that this is a really special brand. And the team that they're building internally, Chris Jurasek and Claire Cronin and the people that they've put together are like, these are heavyweight people. And when you look at most clubs, usually people are they don't appreciate the fact that the club is this is a $5 billion entity that they're building correctly. So I'm sure it's not clear based on what I'm saying, but I am a very big believer, and my chips are definitely in on what they're building there. It's really special.
Yeah, fascinating insight there. And I think you explained it really well, that Chelsea are looking for a best in class, not just on the field, but off the field as well. So just before I let you go, I'm going to make you step aside slightly, because we're seeing this brilliant forest behind you, but a little bit lower, I believe if you tilt the camera down, we can actually see a little bit of Chelsea in there as well.
Yeah. I have my, I'm building, this is actually given to me. The first match, that was the last match of the summer series. Those were in Chicago, and that was actually given to me by a Chelsea supporter who had overheard, while we were in an elevator leaving the game, they overheard Badad, Todd, and I having a conversation about the potential of Infinite Athlete and all this other stuff. And they handed me the flag and they were like, we want you to be a part of the family. So this is eventually getting framed. But my 5-year-old daughter during Chelsea matches likes to wave it because it's got a foam pole, so she can't hurt her sister with it. So she's allowed to wave it around and run around the house. So she's a big fan. The last 48 hours have been very exciting for her because she knows my company, Infinite Athlete, and so she got to watch Infinite Athlete win 2 matches with Chelsea. So the expectations have set way too high with my 5-year-old now. It's they're definitely going to have to go into undefeated now, so that my daughter goes to bed happy every night.
Yeah, an Invincibles style record under Infinite Athlete to keep your little one happy. But Charlie, listen,
Right.
fascinating insight. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us the lowdown on Infinite Athlete and Chelsea, and good luck with the partnership going forwards.
Ben, thank you. I appreciate you taking so much time with me, and I look forward to spending more time together soon.